Hello, I'm Peter Bell, and I'm here with Mr. Matt Wood, President and CEO of Steppe Gold. Hello, Matt.
Peter, how are you? Very, very good to speak to you today.
Absolutely. Our first time speaking. Doing very well here. It's February 13th, 2019, and things continue for Steppe.
Yeah, the company's doing, things have been a little bit slower than we'd hoped, but we're going extremely well. We're building our first mine, and we're fast approaching first gold production from our ATO gold project.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting story. It's a small cohort of new producers in any year when it comes to gold mines. Juniors that are really, have one flagship production like your company here. And, there's so much that goes along with that. It can be a very significant exercise in wealth creation for a lot of people.
For sure. I totally understand that. That's reflected in the share register we've got. As management, we've got a large chunk of this company, and we're certainly aligned with any success the company will experience in the future.
Yeah, and there's so many other people too, right? I wonder how many gold mines there are in Mongolia going on these days.
Yeah, there's a couple. They're mostly privately owned. Obviously, there's the very large Oyu Tolgoi project, which is Turquoise Hill, Rio Tinto, and they're a large producer of gold themselves, apart from their copper production. But no other company such as ourselves. We purchased Altan Saganovo ATO project off Centerra a couple of years ago, and we've been pushing that very hard. We've done the only IPO on the TSX main board last year for a resources company. We raised $25 million.
Wow.
We're backed by Triple Flag, the Triple Flag guys, Triple Flag Mining Finance, who are a fantastic group of guys. Toronto, they're our streaming partner. We did a small stream, gold and silver stream on the Oxide project, and we raised some money for that as well. And so we've been extremely well backed, and we were the only ones that were able to get an IPO away last year on the main board, as I mentioned.
Yep.
And the company's building its first mine, so we're not just a group of guys talking about building a mine. We actually are doing it. So we're nearly finished our capital expenditure on the project. So we're moving into an OPEX phase now, and the project's going extremely well.
Well, so many things to talk about with all of that too. And
Sure.
Just to point out to people that might look at the stock chart and think, oh, something's wrong here, or where something's broken. Nope, these are the markets. This is what happens sometimes. And
yeah, and I guess, look, that's a valid point. I mean, we did a $2 IPO, and everyone thought it was cheap at $2, and it's 75-80 cents now, so it's got to be twice as cheap, doesn't it, at least? So, and we've added a lot of value since then. We've had some spectacular exploration drilling results. We've got this new MUNGU discovery to the north of ATO. It's only sort of half a kilometre away. That's going very well, and we've nearly built our mine now, so we're going to be cash flow positive and producing gold in a matter of months. So, I think the company has been oversold. The markets are very bad. There's certainly a focus on other sectors such as cannabis and things like that. But there's a risk-reward profile, and I think companies like Steppe in particular, who are doing real things, really represent compelling value. I think, particularly at these levels.
Yep, absolutely, and the execution risk on the production side here, to see the photo there of the site kind of under construction, it's a pretty simple circuit really that you have planned out there.
Yep. So the ATO project, it's a plus 1 million ounce deposit at the moment. We think we can see a 3 million ounce ore body there. What we're talking about and what this development is, we're talking about only the top 40 metres of this project. It's open at 300 metres depth, but the Oxide project, the weathered part of those ore bodies, is what we're mining now. And so we're building this little heap leach on that. It's a low capex project. Operating costs are going to be very low. We're going to be sub $500 an ounce. It'll produce probably over 40,000 ounces a year, 40 to 50,000 ounces a year for 4 to 5 years. And that's a project where we've nearly spent all the capex on that. So we've built that project for under $20 million. We're still completing construction of the ADR plant today. And when we turn that on, we're going to start producing gold. The open pit's been running so ATO1 open pit has been running for, about 3 or 4 months already. Initially, it was free dig material for the first 0 to 3 meters depth. We're now blasting. That's going extremely well. With our full crushing circuit has been put together. It's a 2-stage crushing circuit. It's a jaw crusher followed by 2 cone crushers producing a 25 millimeter product. That's operational. That's running around the clock now. The leach pad has been completed. Cell 1 of the leach pad is now being stacked. We've already stacked 75,000 tonnes of material on that leach pad. And we're targeting irrigation date for once we get 200,000 tonnes on there. So the ADR plant's been finished. Everything else is happening. We've already got tonnes on the leach pad, and that's what I meant by we're moving from a capex phase into an OPEX phase because we're spending money on mining and crushing now. Yeah. So look, it's actually happening. It's going extremely well.
I wonder, grade control, any sense of, the stuff that's been mined and been stacked already yet?
Yeah, so look, we haven't put out any, official numbers on that. We're only down 4 meters in the open pit so far, so, it is just the beginning. But the grade reconciliation has been exceptional on a positive side. We always suspected, so we drilled this out at 30 by 30 before we started mining it. We always suspected that, and we'd seen it before, that there'd be some very high grade zones between that drill pattern that weren't reflected in the resource model. So we're seeing initially, and I'm not saying that certainly the project won't be that probably longer term, but initially we're seeing probably the grades probably 50% up onto the leach pad. So through the crusher, sampling after the crusher, and then stacking. And the block grade is probably we're probably 50% up on block grade. So that's an exceptional result. We're very pleased with that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I'm glad to hear that you are doing that kind of sampling when it's coming out of the crushers and all that. I'm sure it's standard operating procedure, but good to check at least.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. This is a product which actually crushes and leaches very well. So for those with some more geological knowledge out there, this is a mid-sulfidation epithermal. ATO1 in itself, we're mining an epithermal sinter cap, so it's like a limonite silica cap that's sitting on the ore body, and that's circa 30 or 40 meters thick. So when you crush it crushes down to like a yellow quartz gravel. So the precipitation rates are excellent. It crushes well. It's not producing any clay. It's producing a beautiful product, and as I mentioned before, the grade looks like it's substantially up as well.
Congratulations.
I guess just talking about things like that and grade, we've seen that elsewhere on the project as well. In the deeper parts of the ore body, below 40 meters depth, where we're doing some of the infill and exploration drilling, is that as we infill, we do see these high-grade results. And historically, Centerra had spent a substantial amount of money on this project and had drilled circa 40,000 meters, and they'd never seen any visible gold on the project. We've now seen visible gold multiple times in this project, and we're seeing results at plus 100 grams on a regular basis now.
Yeah. Some of the results from the fresh stuff down there sounds pretty hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's phase 2 of the project. So phase 1 is a heap leach operation, which we're mining already and stacking or crushing and stacking, and very soon we'll be leaching. Stage 2 is a expansion project, expanding that initial project into a CIL operation, 2 million tonnes per annum, producing circa 150,000 ounces a year. Again, a very low strip ratio, very large open pit.
one question about the geology that had kind of stuck out for me. The zinc, is that, you're seeing that in the oxide domain?
No, we're not seeing any zinc in the oxide. It's mostly leach zinc, very mobile.
Okay.
We are seeing a little bit of lead, but nothing that causes a problem or anything like that, and nothing that we're going to recover. In the fresh rock, there's certainly a zonation from high grade precious metals, silver, gold, to zones of lower grade gold, silver, to zones of that contain, a substantial amount of salarite and galena, so lead and zinc. And this project's already had an internal feasibility done on it by Centerra, and there was always a plan to put a flotation circuit into next to the CIL to pull out a lead concentrate and a zinc concentrate. And ATO2, which is not an ore body we're looking at mining at present, particularly in the oxide zone. I don't think we're going to spend very much time in ATO2 at all, but ATO2 does have a lot of lead zinc in it, and I think at some stage, and we're actually doing a new feasibility study on the fresh rock project now. That's something we're working on, and part of that'll be deciding at what stage we're going to phase in the flotation circuit and start mining some of these zones that have high grade lead zinc in them, and they're economic zones. They'll be profitable zones.
Interesting. Yeah, I see mention of the sinter, and in one of the schematics there of pipe 1 geological diagrams, but there's also some mention of clay in that one. So good to hear that you're not encountering too much or any of that. It's not causing any problems here.
Particularly ATO1. ATO1 has basically no clay in it. It's a sinter, and then as you get below the sinter, the transition zone is 1 to 2 meters wide, and then you're into fresh, hard, silicified rock then.
Yeah.
And even the classic oxide zone. I mean, that's often what is termed free dig material, and you can just mine that without blasting it. Now that's not something we've really been able to do. We had free dig material to 2 to 3 meters across the ATO1 pit, and then we're straight into hard sinter. So we've been blasting now.
And you've bought your own equipment and rigs and fleet, as it?
No, we're using Mongolian contractors for that. So we use a Mongolian exploration contractor for our drilling, and we've got 2 Mongolian earth-moving contractors for the mining and the stacking, and they're doing a fantastic job. Mongolia has a lot of those skill sets, and they do it extremely well. I mean, we're principally a Mongolian company. We don't have a lot of expats on site, and that's one of the reasons we keep costs down. We don't have a whole lot of high-paid mercenaries on site. We've got Mongolians on site, and they're well educated, and they're very well experienced, and they're building a mine in their own country, and they're doing a fantastic job of it.
Well, the operational cost numbers, the $300 and something number that I've seen mentioned a few places, would seem to grab people's attention. And
no, that's exactly right. This is going to be one of the lowest cost gold mines anywhere in the world. It's a very robust operation, and it's testimony to the quality of our team of guys that have put that together and are building it now.
Well, and surprising to hear that you're doing that with contracted fleet and all too. You'd think that
that's exactly right.
Cost
that's
savings.
Exactly right. Yeah, correct.
Well,
look, we're a small company, and small companies building their first mine. I mean, we could afford to build a mine, but we can't afford to go out and purchase a fleet of trucks and excavators and bulldozers and the like. We've purchased the ADR plant, so that was done by a Chinese group, Xinhai, who built a lot of gold plants in China and elsewhere in the world. The crusher we've built is a typical crusher you'd see on the side of the road. So it's a roadside type crusher. It's a semi-mobile crusher. It's a modular unit. That was purchased in China as well. That's fully operational now and is doing a great job. And what we've done is we've overspec'd a lot of this initial project. So when we do scale up, the capex is slightly less. So the crusher is overspec'd. It's also modular, as I mentioned. We can put another one next to it. And very quickly we can upscale this project. We've built a 200 to 300 man camp, messing facility, hotel on site. That's well and truly overspec'd as well. The back end, the gold room on the ADR plan is overspec'd as well. So, you know, for us to go from a 50,000 ounce, 50,000 ounce heap leach scenario to a 150,000 ounce scenario, and there's not a whole lot to do. It's a cutback on the open pit. It's some CIL tankage, and it's a grinding circuit, and probably another crushing circuit right next to the one we've got, which looks identical to the one we've got.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of those CIL plants too, right? The footprint on that compared to the heap, just totally different.
That's right. That's right. I mean, we'd have to put in a tailings dam as well. We don't have a tailings dam for the heap leach, so there is a tailings dam footprint. But you know, this project is fully permitted for that sort of development, and that was done by the prior owners. They did a full feasibility study, and that was based upon heap leach, CIL, and flotation, and that was approved. And on the basis of that, a mining license was granted for the project.
Wild. Yeah, that's wonderful to hear all that runway and the 1 million+ ounces on the books with the extension there at depth and everything. It's wonderful.
No, absolutely. And I guess we've got a lot more drilling on that. None of those things are closed off yet. We've shut down exploration for the time being, purely because it's really all hands on deck to get this project into gold production. You know, we're a small company. We're maximising our available funds, and we're making sure we can turn this into a profitable operation, and that'll pay for more exploration then. So at the moment, there isn't a whole lot of exploration going on, but that'll kick off soon enough.
Yeah.
As I mentioned before, we've got some fantastic results from our initial drilling at particularly ATO4, which we've shown looks like a lot bigger than what we inherited, what we purchased. And then moving from ATO4 into the new MUNGU discovery. I mean, MUNGU probably already looks like an additional 500,000 ounces, and that isn't on the resource balance sheet at present.
And I saw the point made that Centerra, you know, did a lot of good work with the drilling and the trenching, the meters that they racked up there, large numbers. But some of their interpretation could have been left some opportunity for you guys to come in and, you know, do things differently, look at things differently. I wondered.
I think, you know, we've certainly benefited from that. I think the Centerra guys did a great job on the project. I think their interpretation of the data, however, probably wasn't optimal. I think, you know, we're not absentee landlords or anything. We're on the project. We've got a fantastic local team, and you know, we're equity holders in this. We're spending a lot of time making sure we get this right. Consequently, we've had some huge wins on the exploration side, and I think likewise, you know, Centerra was intending to build this all at once as one sort of, you know, giant type Frankenstein project all at once. We've phased it out. We're building a heap leach first, and then we'll step gradually into the CIL, and then we'll step into a flotation circuit after that. I just think, you know, in places like Mongolia, that's a much lower risk and a much happier way to build things. And I think that's we've been proven correct on that as well.
That's great to hear. Yeah, I wondered if it was about rethinking the geology or the project planning almost in some way.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's both. It's two. So on a development, we pulled the entire development planning apart and started again, and that's what we're doing now. And on the geology side of things, we've had substantial wins on the geology side of things.
Yeah.
In particular, not so much on ATO1. I think they understood ATO1 very well, and we've done basically nothing on ATO1 apart from mining it. But on ATO4 in particular, they totally misunderstood that, and we've proven already that that's substantially bigger, and that ATO4, in fact, is probably exactly the same ore body, or at least part of the same system as the MUNGU discovery, which was seen as more of an exploration project, and they didn't really know what it was. And we're getting some spectacular drilling results in both of those, including zones at plus 100 gram per ton gold. So, geologically, our guys, led by our chief Mongolian geologist, Tukshin, have done an exceptional job.
These pipes and all the geology of these systems can be a little tricky.
Yep, they certainly can. Mid-sulfidation epithermals can be a little tricky. They're structurally controlled largely.
Yeah.
So it's all about understanding the geology and understanding the structural controls. And you can't, and that's something that Centerra did. They just tried to bulk tonnage everything up. And I think you've got to look a little bit harder and understand the structural controls. And once you do, that's when you will start seeing these plus 100 gram per ton intercepts. That shows that you are understanding how these ore bodies are behaving. ATO isn't just sitting out there by itself. It's part of a larger, gold, silver epithermal belt called the Uudam Graben, and that trends into Russia. And the geology doesn't change when you cross a political border. And if you cross the Russian border, there's a number of multi-million ounce deposits on the other side of the border that have been mined for up to 100 years in one of their cases. And these are large, well understood deposits that are identical. If you look at the drill core and look at some of the ore samples there, they're identical to what we've got at ATO.
Yeah. Wonderful. It's wonderful to hear it all. Pipe 4, it looks like it's so close to pipe 1. Spatially, that there would be differences and stuff in it. Curveballs again.
Yeah, again, look, pipe 1 and pipe 4 are separate. Pipe 4 isn't actually a pipe at all. It's a structurally controlled epithermal, and it's probably the same as I mentioned before as MUNGU. Pipe 1, I think, looks like a breccia pipe. It's probably it looks like it's fault offset, and we're trying to understand that before that's why we haven't done any drilling. Pipe 1 has been very well drilled by Centerra.
Yeah,
it's still open at depth. And we're putting some targets together at depth, but we're not planning a lot of work at ATO1 apart from the mining program. But ATO4 was well and truly misunderstood, and we've done a lot of work on ATO4.
Yeah, that's wonderful when it's just misclassified right from the start there. That always a great opportunity for an explorationist to come in and.
Oh, it certainly is. It certainly is. I mean, that's the basis for a lot of very famous stories, isn't it?
Yeah. And the other basis too is, going deep, right? And with these systems, they can kind of stretch out laterally pretty far, some of the epithermal stuff, but the pipes, sometimes we think of them a little bit more directly above big intrusions. So, I saw some of the holes, I don't see much below 350 meters really there at the deepest.
Exactly right. This hasn't been drilled to any real depth at all. And we understood that very early, and as part of building our structural model, we got the guys at SRK involved, and so we've had a structural report put together by them, and that's something we've spent a lot of time on understanding this thing. And we always figured that if we understood what we had already, then we could chase it at depth in a more cost-effective manner. Again, we're a small company; you can't go drilling deep holes and miss targets. It's an expensive exercise. So you really need to understand those ore bodies where you can see them first and then chase them with a lot more confidence at depth.
Yeah. Well, and I've been following Chakana copper there a little bit since early 2018. Had somebody introduce me to the concept of some of these smaller breccia pipes, the tourmaline, and the sulfide-rich cementing, that goes on in some of those. I wonder, it seems like, I've tried to go back and read some of the Silito stuff and figure out if they're the same thing or if they're different, or how to categorize these things and fit them in.
They probably are. Look, I think those sort of zones that you're talking about are probably deeper in the system, and that's quite interesting because if you look at some of the deeper drilling results down towards that 300 metres, you are starting to see signs of copper mineralisation, including a couple of very nice results. So I think that zone that you're talking about is probably around 400 metres, and that's been untested. And I think probably a bit deeper than that, there's probably, and I don't know how deep that is, but there's probably a porphyry copper sitting even deeper down. And these are boiling zones above that. So a sinter indicates that it's right on the surface. So the next series of breccias down are probably these breccias you're talking about, and then they're normally quite peripheral to the copper porphyry, a little bit deeper than that. So I think we are seeing that whole system there, and we are seeing copper already in some of the deeper holes. Very interesting copper numbers, but we're talking about a couple of drill holes that have been drilled years ago, and that's something we're looking at ourselves.
Good. Well, take your time, right? It's as you say, those are high risk drill programs.
Absolutely, that's right. Look, at the moment, we're focused on building this and putting it into production as soon as possible, and we're very close to that, and we're hoping by mid-year that we're well and truly in cash flow.
Well, and it's interesting, that you have some visibility on the full range of issues there, or, whether or not you're able to do that. I guess that's the beauty of contractors, right? You get the right team in there to help you, and you could tackle all those different things, over time.
No, that's exactly right. That's right. And look, and those guys are all doing very well. So we started off on, just running 12-hour shifts, just a straight 12 hours, just doing day shifts. And we've just been through, at the back end of a pretty brutal winter out there. But we've just moved onto double shifts. So we've just put the crusher onto double shift. Mining will go onto a double shift. The final construction of the ADR plant will go onto a double shift at the beginning of March. So, that whole process is going extremely well.
Thank you, for mentioning winter. I saw mention in the technical report there of the climate conditions, and it sounds like it can get brutally cold and very, very hot as well. It sounds like there's some wind kicking around there too.
Yeah, it can get a little bit windy, but look, it's probably, from a Canadian perspective, the weather's probably a lot like Edmonton. That's how I describe it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we certainly see days in the middle of winter where it gets close to -40, and in the sea, and in summer we probably see days that are low 30s plus. So there is a temperature, a huge temperature variance there. But what we don't see is a lot of precipitation, so we don't get a lot of lost time due to rain. And just over this winter period, we've had very little lost time due to snowfall or blizzards or things like that. It is quite a dry environment.
Well, and that's good for the heat, I would think.
Absolutely, that's exactly right. Yeah.
But water generally, I saw some mention of maybe some pumps or some deep wells nearby that were talked about in one of the old studies. How's the water situation?
Yeah, that's right. So Centerra had, as part of their feasibility study, had defined a bore field, a water resource.
Yep.
We've since defined another one, which is within 50 metres of the plant and the leach pad. So we've drilled 2 holes into that. Yeah, so there's a lot of water around in some of the more recent sediment basins out there and away from the epithermal, and very close to the epithermal. So water has not been a problem. I don't see it as a problem at all, even for an expansion into a much larger CIL or flotation operation. I just don't see water as being an issue.
Great. Yeah, that's good to hear. There was talk of a pipeline that seemed to be a couple kilometers or something like that, and I wondered if that was...
So that pipeline was in the Centerra feasibility study, and that was going from that water resource bore field to their proposed plant site. So, that's something we could certainly do in the future. And if we need to pull upon that water resource. But otherwise, we've got existing water right on site, right next to the plant now.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great to hear. Thank you. You know, you see these photos of the relief and the topography in this area, and it's amazing how it all looks there. And then to think about, you know, having the full cartoon, from, you know, the deep porphyry intrusion all the way through up to the epithermal stuff at surface. It's a pretty unique example to have all that kind of accessible in a mountainous plain type setting, relatively flat, you know, easy place to work, safe place to work.
It's a fantastic place to build a mine. It really is. I mean, it's a fantastic place. I mean, you couldn't ask for any better places anywhere in the world that I've been where you want to build a mine like that. I mean, it's a great environment. We've got a lot of support from the local populace as well, local government, the local state government, and federally. I mean, this is seen as a real champion project in Mongolia, and that's been headed up by our Mongolian CEO, Dr. Tuma Ocha, and he's doing a fantastic job locally to promote, you know, what can be done in the mineral space in the country.
I wonder, electricity and power and stuff like that too. Was there?
Yeah, so at the moment we're fully diesel, so all of our power is diesel. We've got a generator running the camp. We've got another generator running the crushing circuit, and we'll have another generator running the ADR plant. So at the moment it's all diesel. We're looking at a number of options for the CIL, and that's subject to our new feasibility study. But as part of Centerra's study, they certainly looked at a number of potentials, including pulling electricity off the main grid, and that's certainly got some potential to it. Otherwise, an expansion to the diesel case, which I think is probably a bit expensive. Otherwise, we're looking at some renewables as well. Also, potentially a big enough coal burner or something like that. So we're looking at all those numbers now, expansion case. But at the moment, it's a small operation, and we're just a lot quicker and a lot cheaper to just go diesel.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of wild discussions going on out there. There's people talking about small nuclear reactors, things now. You know, that's not really a reality yet, but when you have the connection to, you know, the political support, you know, behind it, it changes the way some of those big dreams or you know, wild possibilities, they become a little bit more realistic, I think.
Yeah, no, certainly. And certainly from a wind perspective, that's something we're looking really hard at. So,
yeah,
you know, we are out on the Mongolian steppe. It's windy, and it's windy a lot of the time. So certainly we should be looking at, you know, renewables like wind power in particular, as, you know, providing some of that base electricity load that will require for a larger project.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And I think, as you say, I mean, politically that resonates extremely well and will get a lot of support.
Yeah. And I wonder the market too, thinking about some of these exploration stories that are having some great success in Red Lake, Ontario in particular right now. I saw an analyst being quoted as, you know, giving a couple $100 an ounce to an implied valuation for, you know, their estimate of what a resource might come in at. And I thought, wow, that's a significant valuation multiple. You know, if you were just to take the 1 point something million ounces on the books for Steppe Gold here, that kind of a number would, you know, be significantly far above where market's at now.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And look, and we're building a real project. We're not talking about exploration. We actually are doing it. This is going to be producing gold bars in a matter of months, and on top of that, we've got this very large project beneath us. You know, over 1 million ounces, and we'll probably add another 1 to 2 million ounces to that. And then we do have some exploration country in the south of the country, down at our Uudam Khundii project, and that's in the Baja-Hongor Gold Belt, where, you know, some other companies have had some spectacular success and put together 1 million ounces and a number of deposits around us. We control the center of that belt, 14,000 hectares.
Yeah.
just with I guess rock chipping, a huge soil sampling program, and a fair chunk of geophysics. We've already had 4 discoveries there, including one very large discovery called Golden Arrow, and that's something that's 3 kilometres long and half a kilometre wide, and has never had a drill hole put in it. So we're looking at some stuff like that as well, and we're looking at a number of other opportunities in Mongolia, and I think, our ambition is certainly not to go to Mongolia to build a 40,000-ounce heap leach. We want to build, a 5 to 10 million ounce resource base and see if we can get to, plus 200 to 400,000 ounces per annum. That's why we're in Mongolia. We want to be the premier precious metals company in the country, and we've got a strategy in place to do that. And, we IPO'd this company on the main board of the stock exchange, and markets have been difficult, and we've had some delays on the project, although we're still under on the capex side, and our shares have fallen back, but the company's still progressed. We've still got our assets. We haven't lost anything. Everything's looking better than it was, so we can see some real value in the future.
Yeah, well, and I guess the thing that people wonder about is the short mine life.
Yeah, I guess that short mine life is only on the oxide project. There's a 1 million ounce fresh rock project below that, which will have and this is all subject to completion of the feasibility study, but that'll have a 10 to 20 year mine life, producing 150,000 ounces a year. So that ends that conversation very quickly.
Well, but and that's the thing, right? And people, I don't know quite how. I think what it is that the cohort of new producers has a fair amount of wreckage along the way. The last few years, there's been a few horror stories, at least in Canada, in my experience, of new gold mining companies that haven't done particularly. Some of them have been disasters, but the typical performance hasn't been that good, right? I look at Atlantic Gold as one of the few that's kind of bucking that trend and reminding the markets, no, you can go into production and things can go well, guys. Don't forget.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, that's the reality of it. I mean, it is very difficult for small companies on limited budgets building their first gold mine. That's a tough business, and we're well and truly into it. We've nearly spent all our capex, and we're very close to pouring our first gold. So, certainly that may have been why, one of the many reasons why we've been sold down a bit. But that's why I think there's a real value proposition in this company now, because that's all going to change very soon. So if you can pick up shares at 80 cents that were $2 not very long ago, but everything's probably valuing it at $3, $4, or $5 today, then that's a fantastic buy.
Absolutely, yeah, and there's a catalyst too potentially for the market in recognizing that things aren't a disaster here with the first quarter or first couple quarters. If you guys posted some surprising numbers, I think again, being listed on the big board, there's more eyes on. I wonder, analyst coverage, anything like that from the street, Toronto?
I think we're going to see more and more of that as we get closer to production. We're getting more and more interest. We're running a broker analyst tour in May, and I think we'll see a lot more coverage coming out of that.
Good. Yeah, well, and use the internet to your advantage, right? That local population, they're pretty tech savvy. Some groups. I met a couple Mongolian people in Vancouver, and they're pretty engaged, and they use Twitter pretty aggressively, right? It's
absolutely, yeah.
Wonderful.
So our guys are going to be. I'm not going to be there myself, but we've got a booth at PDAC.
Yep.
Our Mongolian CEO, Batutuma Ocha, will be there. VP Exploration Chief Geologist, Enk Tulshin, will be there. Anil Varach will be there as well. So we're going to have quite a good team there, and I'd welcome people to come by the booth and have a chat to the team, and I'll get a much better understanding of Mongolia. I mean, I've been in Mongolia a very long time. My wife's Mongolian. I've had a lot of success there, and I love the country. I think it's a fantastic place to do business. So, but
Yeah,
by all means, people should stop in and have a chat to the guys in the booth if they're at PDAC and get a better understanding of what the company's doing and how we're going in Mongolia.
very cool to see the North Star or the Polaris, some kind of a prize that you were awarded at some point in time too. That's pretty neat to hear.
Yeah, that's right. So I was awarded the Polar Star myself for contributions to Mongolia. It's the highest award a foreign can receive in the country, and it's by presidential and parliamentary decree. So it's something I'm very honoured to accept and was very proud to accept. And I'm the first foreigner in the mining sector ever to receive a Polar Star.
Wow. Yeah, and that was, I don't know the story there. I read the name of the company. It wasn't a coal company. What?
That's right. So one of my other companies in the past in Mongolia was a coal company called Khundii Coal. And that was a company I founded with some Mongolian business partners of mine. And we took it from a $20 million IPO on the Australian Stock Exchange to a $500 million takeout in under 2 years. It was IPO of the year in Australia for all sectors, and it was Mines and Money Global for 2012. So we built a fantastic business in Mongolia with Mongolian people running it. Again, we hardly had any expats in that country. We built a business which we were really proud of, and somebody came along and offered us a lot of cash to pay out to our investors, and that was the success of Khundii Coal. Now we're doing it in the gold space.
Exactly right. Yeah, this could happen again. As tough as things might look here in February, August comes around, or who knows, the next 18 months could always be very interesting, right? That's
absolutely. I think the next 18 months are going to be extremely interesting, particularly for Steppe Gold as we look at additional acquisitions. We're well and truly into production from the ATO project, from the heap leach. We've completed the feasibility study on the fresh rock and demonstrate a long mine life on another very profitable operation. And we start putting some exploration results out for our UK project in the south of the country. And I'm sure, I mentioned earlier, we'll be doing some more acquisitions as well to grow this business further.
Yeah. Well, and it's great to hear you conveying that vision and ambition. Markets seem to need bigger and bigger and bigger all the time, right? It's good to have a firm foundation to stand on, and going into production here, ATO it does that, but the big vision to get everybody excited about the $1 billion, what takes the company to $1 billion valuation or something.
Oh, that's where we want to take it. We want to be a $1 billion gold company. That's what we're all. That's why we turn up to work every day. That's what we want to do.
Yeah, exactly right. And the streaming with Triple Flag Finance and all, no forward sales or anything in addition to that?
No, so they've got a stream on the heap leach, which is 25% of the gold production at 30% of spot. And there's a small ongoing gold tail after that. So that's on the gold side of things. But, we had to give away some of that upside to fund all this. As I mentioned, we're a small company and we need good backers behind us. And Triple Flag have been absolutely fantastic backers for the company. Not just financial backers, but they all come from a very strong resources and technical background. And again, we're a small company, and sometimes you can't afford that expertise. So not only have Triple Flag provided necessary funding, but they've provided some great guidance and technical expertise as well, which has been beneficial for the company. So they're a very strong partner for us.
Wow, and I see them around here and there, and they seem to be picking up some very aggressive positioning. A very bullish group, and looking forward, I keep my eyes peeled for where we might see leadership, on various sides of the business, and their name is one of the ones that keeps popping up.
Yep, I totally believe that. Yep, I understand that.
Oh, well, pleasure to chat with you here today, Matt. I wonder,
Thanks
anything
very
else?
much for your time, Peter. Much appreciated. I love telling the story.
Matt Wood, President and CEO of Steppe Gold. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter.